The strange thing about a perfect rocket launch is how close it always looks to failure. For 8 minutes, a 6.6-ton satellite is balanced on controlled explosions crossing the atmosphere faster than sound, while computers make decisions no human could make in time. Falcon Heavy lifted off from Florida with ViaSat-3 F3, a communication satellite meant to work from geostationary orbit far above the planet where Earth seems almost still. Its two side boosters came back and landed at Cape Canaveral like the violence had been rehearsed into obedience. From the ground, it looks clean. Fire, thunder, separation, landing legs, applause. But the cleaner it looks, the easier it is to misunderstand what happened. This was not just a rocket putting a satellite into space. It was a machine, fighting gravity air pressure, heat timing, fuel margins, ocean distance, orbital mechanics, and economics at the same time. And it had almost no room to be wrong, because space does not care that the landing was beautiful. It does not care that the boosters returned. It does not care that the live stream made it feel routine. The real story is hidden inside the contradiction. To place one satellite high above Earth, you need one of the most powerful operational rockets ever built. You need 27 engines to ignite together. You need parts of the vehicle to separate in flight, turn around, fall back through the atmosphere, restart their engines, and land upright on concrete. And even then, one entire core is still sacrificed to the ocean. So the question is not whether this launch was successful. The question is why success in space still looks so much like destruction. People tend to think launch is the hard part. It is the part with fire sound and visible danger. It is the part that looks like something leaving Earth. But launch is only the beginning of the negotiation. A rocket is not trying to go up. Not really. Going up is just how it escapes the thickest air. What it actually needs is sideways speed. Orbit is not a place. It is a condition. You are falling toward Earth so fast that the ground keeps curving away beneath you. Miss that balance by a little and the mission becomes something else. Too slow, and you fall back. Too low, and the atmosphere steals your energy. Too much heat, too much vibration, too much pressure at the wrong moment, and the vehicle starts becoming debris. That is why the launch sequence sounds so cold. Max Q booster cutoff, stage separation, entry burn, terminal guidance. Each phrase is a door the rocket has to pass through. At max Q, the rocket is moving faster, while the air is still thick enough to punish it. The vehicle is not simply accelerating. It is being squeezed, shaken, and bent by the atmosphere. It is trying to escape. Then the side boosters shut down and separate. For a few seconds, the mission becomes 3 missions. One vehicle keeps pushing the satellite toward orbit. 2 others flip around, ignite again, and aim themselves back at the same coastline they just fled. This is what people get wrong about reusable rockets. They do not make space easy. They make the impossible slightly less wasteful. And the deeper you look, the stranger the bargain becomes. The first wall is not height, it is energy. A 6.6-ton satellite sounds manageable until you remember where it has to go. Not just above the atmosphere, not just into low Earth orbit. It must be sent toward a path that can carry it tens of thousands of kilometers from the surface toward the region where communication satellites appear to hover over one part of the planet. That distance changes everything. Low Earth orbit is already brutal. Geostationary orbit is another kind of demand. It requires a satellite to move in rhythm with Earth's rotation, far enough away that one orbit takes roughly 1 day. From the ground, that sounds elegant. For the rocket, it means debt. Every kilogram becomes expensive. Every structural choice matters. Every extra bit of performance has to be extracted from fuel engines, staging, and trajectory. This is why Falcon Heavy exists. A single booster is not enough for some payloads and some destinations. So 3 Falcon 9 cores are strapped together, turning one rocket into a temporary alliance of machines. 27 Merlin engines ignite near the pad, not because it looks impressive, but because the atmosphere and gravity demand payment immediately. Gravity does not simply pull downward, it charges by the second. The longer the rocket spends climbing slowly, the more energy it loses fighting Earth instead of building speed. So the vehicle must accelerate hard, but not too hard. It must survive max Q. It must protect the satellite. It must burn fuel fast enough to escape the pad, but carefully enough to preserve the mission. And then, at the worst possible time, it has to come apart on purpose. Side boosters separate. The center core continues. The upper stage takes over. Fairings peel away once the air is thin enough that the satellite no longer needs protection. What looks like one launch is actually a timed disassembly. A rocket succeeds by destroying its original shape. The deeper system is not the rocket. It is timing. Every event is chained to another event, and each one changes the shape of the problem. The rocket cannot simply wait and decide. It has to act inside narrow windows measured in seconds. The side boosters separate only after they have given enough energy to the stack, but before they are too far downrange to return to land. Their return is not a bonus maneuver. It is a second flight plan unfolding while the main mission continues above them. They flip, they burn back, they coast. Then they fall. And falling is not passive. As the boosters return, the atmosphere becomes a wall again. Thin air becomes thick air. Hypersonic motion becomes heat pressure and violent drag. The entry burn is not there for elegance. It is there because the vehicle would otherwise meet the lower atmosphere with too much speed and too little mercy. Even the soot on the booster tells a story. The blackened skin comes from RP-1, a carbon-based fuel deposited as the boosters fly through their own exhaust and return through the air. It is a visible record of survival. A machine that has been burned, shaken, and thrown back at Earth, then asked to do it again. Meanwhile, high above the second stage does not care about the landing applause. It keeps burning, because the satellite is still not where it needs to be. The boosters are returning to concrete, but the payload is entering a much colder economy of precision. One engine, one trajectory, one insertion. A small error up there can become a large problem over thousands of kilometers. This is the hidden truth of modern launch. Reusability reduces waste, but it does not remove sacrifice. It just moves sacrifice around. Fuel is spent to recover hardware. Performance is traded for landing. The center core may be lost because the satellite needs the energy more than the company needs the booster. Spaceflight is not a triumph over physics. It is a negotiation with physics paid in mass. This matters because launches like this are easy to mistake for confidence. A rocket lands and the future seems closer. But the landing is only the visible part of a larger machine. Behind it are factories, launch pads, range approvals, weather constraints, fuel systems, tracking stations, insurance markets, orbital slots, ground terminals, and a global demand for bandwidth that never stops expanding. The satellite is not going to space for romance. It is going there because Earth is hungry for connection. Airplanes, ships, remote communities, military systems, financial networks, disaster zones, and ordinary people moving through dead spots all depend on invisible infrastructure above them. A satellite in geostationary orbit becomes part of the planet's nervous system, and that makes the launch heavier than it looks. Because the more civilization depends on space, the less space remains a frontier. It becomes infrastructure, then dependence, then vulnerability. A single rocket failure can erase years of manufacturing. A single satellite anomaly can weaken a network before most people know it exists. A single bad orbit can turn a billion-dollar object into a silent monument, moving above the equator. Reusable boosters help. They lower costs. They increase launch cadence. They let engineers learn from hardware that used to be thrown away forever. But they do not change the basic condition. Every mission still begins at the bottom of a gravity well. Every kilogram still has to be justified. Every success still leaves behind heat, exhaust discarded stages, and risk transferred somewhere else. Falcon Heavy's side boosters returning to Florida was not just a spectacle of precision. It was a reminder that the future is not arriving gently. It is being forced upward, one controlled explosion at a time. By the time the mission reaches orbit, the noise is already gone. The launch pad is quiet again. The sky looks empty. The boosters stand on the ground, scorched but intact, as if the violence that carried them there has been edited out of reality. But above Earth, the satellite continues onward. It will spend its life in a region where there are no clouds, no weather, no sunrise in the human sense. Only geometry, only power levels, only station-keeping burns and thermal cycles, and the slow pressure of radiation on machines built to last years without being touched. That is the part of spaceflight we rarely see. Not the blastoff. The waiting. The long, silent conversion of engineering into service. A satellite becomes useful only after the drama is over, when it is no longer a launch, but a responsibility moving above the planet. And this is the colder truth behind the perfect landing. Human beings are not escaping Earth with machines like this. Not yet. We are extending Earth systems upward, building fragile layers of communication, navigation, surveillance, and dependence in places our bodies cannot survive. Falcon Heavy did what it was designed to do. It lifted a heavy satellite, divided itself in flight, returned 2 boosters to Florida, and pushed the payload toward its future with almost surgical precision. But the achievement is not that space became easy. The achievement is that for a few minutes, thousands of moving parts behaved exactly as they had to inside a universe that offers no forgiveness. And then the sky closed behind it. No applause reaches orbit. Only the machine remains.